My Slippers. I got to explain this to you. They are exclusive 3-tier cushioning system. It's like walking on clouds, right? We took the My Pillow patented foam, the one that you know and love, and they created a solid layer to provide incredible comfort. Don't forget to use the promo code Carter, CARTER, and you will receive 40% off of your My Slippers. Your whole family's going to love it. Where are we headed? Where is our nation headed? Like I said, I had a very extensive interview with Michael Yon, a phenomenal war correspondent who I've worked with overseas, who I've known for a long time, and who I follow avidly because he is always one step ahead. He knows, based on his history of studying war and peace, I would say, he knows what's happening even before it starts to happen. He kind of follows the dots, connects those dots, and puts it together. And he has a huge message for us in the United States. He has been here in the U.S. following what's been going on here as far as the rioting, as far as the tensions and the divisions that our lawmakers are instituting inside our country. And he has a warning for all of us. You do not want to miss the second half of this Michael Yon interview. It is absolutely extraordinary. But before I get there, I want you to be able to get all your links for my social media at SaraACarter.com. You got to go there to get all Parler, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is. Get it there. And while you are there, I need you to sign up for our email list so that you don't get shadow banned. You got to sign up for the email list. It's that important. We're able to get the information directly to you without having to worry about Facebook or Twitter basically making us invisible to you. Okay. And they do that. They do that. I'm not over exaggerating this. Also, thank you, AMAC. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Association of Mature American Citizens. It is the only alternative conservative organization to AARP, the only one. So go to amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter, CARTER. Michael Yon, I don't even know how to describe like what an incredible war correspondent Michael Yon is, how many people he knows all over the world. The fact that he's not afraid to stand up for the truth. The guy will travel through the most dangerous jungles in Panama, in the Darien Gap. He will meet with people in Armenia on mountains. He will go to Hong Kong and stand in the middle of the riots and the protests and get interviews. He will travel the world and collect information and deliver it to you, deliver it to Congress, inform us. I mean, he's based mainly in Thailand, and he talks about that, but he travels the world and he is able to ascertain and understand. And the reason I know him and know of Michael Yon, and I was able to get this incredible interview with him, we talked for over an hour, so we had to split it up into two parts, is because I remember him from Afghanistan. I remember Michael Yon from my time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and his brilliance and his ability to basically assess a situation and assess the war. You know, being in theater is quite different, and that's what they call it, being in theater. We're not dancing. Nope, we're not dancing. We're not on our toes. We're not doing any kind of spins. No, we're out there in theater, in the theater of war. It's much different, very dangerous. And it's very hard sometimes to assess, right, what's going on, unless you're there. I can never handle a journalist saying that they're reporting on the war. They never been to the war zone, right? Because you can report on maybe what you're hearing and you can anchor it on television, but you can't talk about what's happening on the ground. What's happening with our troops, what's happening with the people, what's happening with the nation. When you're dealing with terrorism, it's a whole new ballgame, right? What other nations are influencing, who is involved, are there threats to our national security? So Michael Yon, as he started seeing things happening here in the United States, as he started to watch what was unfolding here with the rioting and the unfortunate and tragic deaths, police shootings, that were, taken by the left and really pulled into the media spotlight, when he saw what was happening even during the Trump administration towards the end with the election and what was going on in Washington State, in Oregon, here in Washington, D.C., as people began to riot in the streets, Michael Yon was here. He wasn't in another country. He came to the United States because he saw the sparks of things that should not be happening in this great nation of ours. And it was frightening. And his assessment of this is frightening. And we better look, I believe more than anybody that we can stop things before they get too out of control. I actually believe that. I actually believe in this nation. I believe that we are a great nation, a strong nation, but we're only as strong and as great as our people, right? And our willingness to protect our Constitution and our willingness to protect our values. Liberty being the most important value, right? Liberty, standing for something on principle and really believing that. We start burning books. We start telling people how to live their lives. We start ostracizing people. We start teaching kids in school all this craziness that we're teaching them. And, we fundamentally will change. And we've seen that in our streets. We've seen what's happened when we have been influenced by this kind of radical leftist ideology and what's happened to our country. And that is why I thought it was so important that I give you the full Michael Yon interview, because he is predicting a division in this country far greater than maybe many of you even understand. Even I did not understand. But what he has seen overseas and how he connects those dots to what he is seeing here is absolutely astonishing and frightening, and should be a warning to each and every one of us that we have got to do what's right to protect our children's future and save our nation. Michael Yon has been in more than 76 countries. He has been an advisor to many administrations. He is in frequent contact with some of our top Pentagon officials and generals. He is somebody that I have a lot of faith in, somebody that I am grateful to have on this show, and I will bring him back again and again. Here's my second half of the interview with Michael Yon. You don't want to miss this. Let's bring it back to the United States, because you were here along the border. You spent a lot of time here in the U.S. covering the U.S.-Mexico border like I did. If you were in Washington, D.C. right now, if you had an opportunity to talk to President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, what would you tell them about what's going on?
I was just in Washington before all this. For instance, I was at the Capitol attack. I didn't go inside, but I was physically there. And because, I do conflict. I got kicked out of Hong Kong last year, for giving the communists a hard time. So this is what I do, right? And just before that, I was actually invited into the White House. I was there, and I was at the Vice President's residence as well at a reception. That was before all that in December. So, I was just in Washington. I was there at the so-called inauguration, and then I shot straight down to the border in El Paso, right? And was down in Juarez and New Mexico and Arizona, and then down to Colombia. We are in an epic situation here. Amateurs talk about sparks, professionals talk about conditions, right? The conditions are being set in the United States for war, literally war. And, when it came to Iraq, I was a year and a half ahead of everybody on saying that Iraq is going into civil war. I kept repeating it, and people were saying I was wrong and crazy. And I'm like, I'm here on the ground. I'm telling you, there's a civil war going on right now, and it's actually growing. It's metastasizing. Likewise, when I went to Afghanistan in 2006, I immediately wrote 12 major dispatches in 2006 saying that we're losing the war. And, my CIA girlfriend at the time got very angry. And she's like, how can you just say that on Fox News? I'm like, because it's true, right? We are it, but people didn't realize it. And how did I know that? Well, first of all, I spent years in wars, right? And one of the things I ask the intel people, whether it's British or Americans, is how's your human going? How's your human intelligence trends? Mm-hmm. I'm not asking you what they're telling you. I'm asking you, is it trending down or is it trending up? Are you getting more human or less human, right? If you're getting less human, that's a bad sign. That's like a doctor walking in and checking blood pressure and like, hey, they're crashing. It's going down by the minute, right?
Right.
If your humit's going down, that's a really bad sign. So in Afghanistan, humit was plummeting. I was out, away from the military quite a lot. And actually in 2006, I was only going into bases to talk with military, and I was mostly out with Afghans, right? And so I published those dispatches, and people said, you're crazy. And I went back to Iraq because I just left Iraq, went to Afghanistan, went back to Iraq. And in 2007, you might remember, that's when our combat was the heaviest. It was in 2000, like in August of 2007. Yeah, I was on the
I do remember because I got there in 2000, end of 2000. Beginning of 2008 is when I got there, is beginning of 2008. And I was there all the way through the rest of the war up until I think it was 2013 or 2014 when I was back in Iraq, though, the back and forth. But I was in Afghanistan for quite a bit of time. And I remember reading your dispatches. That's what actually a lot of people were talking about, what you were seeing down there on the ground. And I went right in, and it was terrible. It was a crisis.
It seemed crazy at the time, though, in Afghanistan in 2006 when I said it's going badly.
Right.
And in Iraq in 2007, I was on the Hugh Hewitt show in August of 2007. You can probably find this interview online. And I remember that was the peak casualty month, was August of 2007. You can look on iCasualty.org and you can actually see that. That was the peak. So I'm on an interview with Hugh Hewitt. And I said something like, I want to be the first to say something like this. You can find it online. That I think we're turning this around. We're starting to actually beat them. And a lot of people went crazy with that. They're like, wait a minute. This is the highest casualties we've ever had in the Iraq war. And you just said we're losing in Afghanistan, which is wrong, they all said, which was not true. And that we're starting to win in Iraq. You've got it backwards. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm the doctor. This is what I think is happening with these patients. And one of the things in Iraq, for instance, is the humit was skyrocketing in that, in the summer of 2007. Why did we have more casualties? Because first of all, we were doing the surge. Secondly, Petraeus was in charge.
Right.
He was highly aggressive. Petraeus was kicking butt. And we were getting humit was going through the roof. I mean, I've never seen, every mission I went on, Iraqis were like, hey, stop. And we would talk with them and be like, Al-Qaeda's in that house right over there. How many? 6. What do they have? AK-47s, RPG. What are they doing? How long have they been there? Okay, we'd go kill them, right? Or we'd capture them or kill half of them and capture. I mean, it was just like we couldn't service all the targets. And so we were taking a lot of casualties. That's why our casualties were high. We were attacking because you lose people when you attack. But the next month, I got lucky. Our casualties started to go down. And so at literally the peak of our casualties in the entire war, I actually took a chance and said, I think we're starting to win. And then lucky timing, I called the market, our casualties plummeted. But why? Humid was skyrocketing.
And what are you saying about America now, though? What you're seeing here in the United States with Antifa, with the rise and division, I believe instigated by media and by lawmakers, dividing this country on racial divides, economic divides, social divides. What do you think's happening here in America?
Conditions are set for civil war. That's very clear. I mean, they're becoming more and more set. That's quite obvious. And so I just said all that about Iraq and Afghanistan to preface what I'm saying here now. And remember, I have been very correct on, for instance, Japan-Korea relations and other things that I publish about in Asia more. I'm like autistic in my study. 7 days a week, this is what I do, right? I'm Rain Man on this stuff. I was just all over America, all over San Francisco, just recently, Los Angeles, all over California, Oregon, Washington State, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, DC. I've been checking out atmospherics the way I do in wars. You got to go around like soil samples everywhere. And what I'm seeing are conditions are clearly being set for war. And if the economy collapses, if the U.S. economy collapses, it's not about sparks. People ask me all the time, what will be the spark? And I'm like, it's not about sparks. If the forest is dry, the sparks will come. Somebody's going to shoot a firework, throw a cigarette, whatever, lightning strike. It doesn't matter what the spark is. It's about conditions. And the conditions. What
do we need to do, Michael? Michael, what do we need to do to stop this?
Close the border, period. And start exporting people that are in the United States illegal. I mean, round them up and send them out. Make it very clear that if you come into the United States illegally, you will be rounded up, you will be put in a camp. And when we can get you back to your country, you will go back to your country. Because they're this.
But a lot of people will hear that and say, "Well, you're just racist. You're against illegals. You don't care about the people that are coming into the country."
Well, considering I've spent more than half of my life in other countries, and considering I'm married to an Asian woman, right? So it's hard to make me out as a racist. I literally spent a third of my life in third world countries. I mean, I literally sometimes go for a week without seeing another white person. Right. And so it's hard to make that case. Right. And many of the people that I'm saying we should kick out are actually white people. Right. So it's not about racist. It's not any of that stuff. And I don't buy it. The stuff that they're throwing is information war, and I don't fall for it. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that goes to India for a year and doesn't get scammed. There's not a lot of people that can do that. Right. It's because whatever the psychological tricks they're throwing at me, I'm like, get out of my face with that crap. You're the racist making these allegations. The biggest racist is the first person that calls people racist, right? I mean, it's just the way it goes. I mean, the Democrat Party has been doing this since the 1800s, literally since the 1800s with the Ku Klux Klan. The latest Ku Klux Klan is Black Lives Matter is the latest Ku Klux Klan. And Antifa, I mean, these guys, it's nothing but a cult. I've studied cults around the world. One thing when I was a Green Beret, I was lucky. I was on two really good teams. And the two teams that I was on, they stressed anthropology. Learn as much as you can about local religions, learn about cults, that sort of thing, because all over the world, you're dealing with cults, you're dealing with religions, you're dealing with, the only cult you can never see is the one that you're in, by the way. You can see everybody else's cult. The cult that you're in, no, I'm not in the cult, but you sure are. Antifa is straight up cult.
Isn't that the truth?
Oh, yeah. You'll never see the cult you're in. You'll be like, this is not a cult. This is the way things are, And but Antifa is a straight up cult.
So you think that in America, like part of the solution, I guess, of getting there is getting control of our borders. But what about lawmakers? What is the responsibility of our lawmakers? What is the responsibility of our media? How do the American people who have lost so much faith in both ever find a way to get that back?
Well, start media. This is information war. I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. And this isn't all Chinese. Those books are in Japanese language, by the way. You can't get them in the United States because I work with Japan quite a lot. Our number one ally in the world is Japan, right? The relationship between Japan and the United States is the most important relationship in the world. I love Great Britain and all that stuff, but our relationship is really not that important compared to Japan and the United States. I mean, they're all important. All relationships are important. But right now, we're facing CCP, right? And the Chinese information war, we're facing many information wars. There's the Russians. They've always been at it since the 20s. Information war has been going. Actually, information war, there are so many information wars going on. It's like a jungle.
I absolutely believe that.
There's tons of information wars going on. There's not just CCP. There's not just, internal stuff. This has been going on since forever. Like if you look at Ulysses S. Grant, when he did his world tour in 1879, he was in Paris talking with the Chinese guy. I've forgotten his name. But if you read, I published it several times. If you read what U.S. Grant said in 1879, he warns specifically about communists. And he uses the communist. I'm not paraphrasing. He says communist, uses the communist C word. He's like, warns about communists and warns about ne'er-do-wells who are always ready in any civilized country to do bad stuff. In other words, if you read what he wrote, it's on my Patreon. It could have been written 3 hours ago, and it could have been talking about BLM and Antifa and communists. It literally could have been written this morning. It's that accurate. And it's
but when nobody's willing to when no one's willing to tell the truth about these groups, when everybody's afraid because everybody's afraid of being canceled. I know we are, but there are very few people that are right now, because the thing is, it's like you talk, you say it, and you're canceled. You say something that isn't quite right, and then you're not woke enough. They've used all of these, I think, strategically, this disinformation warfare in such a strategic way that people, even with common sense, are afraid to use their common sense out of fear that once they say it, they're going to be ostracized by the rest of the group. It's like a perfect tactic, right? It's like anything you say, all of a sudden you're a UFO guy. Although now people are believing in the UFOs and I'm doing a lot of shows on that. But the thing is, you know what I mean? It's like you say something that we don't agree with and you will be out of the loop. We are going to ostracize you, allow other groups to destroy your reputation. And before you can pick up the pieces, you're going to be gone. We're going to shred you. It's like the worst kind of warfare, right?
It is. I mean, information warfare, if you've got a great information warfare campaign going, that's like having a great Navy and Air Force. I mean, information war is military power. It is incredible. And one of the things that China, CCP in particular, is doing right now is setting up Japan. I was in Hong Kong for 7 months, and when they broke into LegCo, Legislative Council, is like their parliament. That's like their Capitol building. I was there. I was inside when they broke in, when the Hong Kong protesters broke in, right? There, and then they took Hong Kong. I mean, Chinese Communist Party took Hong Kong. They're lining up to take Taiwan. They're going to do it, right?
But they're here. The CCP is focused on the United States as well. CCP has been, I mean, really feeding off of the divide in the U.S. I believe that they actually played a role in that.
Absolutely. And in fact, they will work to get you and I canceled, you and me canceled. They'll work for that. They'll work for that very, very hard. And they are. I mean, they've caused a lot of problems for me already, and they'll continue to do that. The thing is the things that we're facing now, nothing that we're facing now is new. It's all happened before. A lot of people are like, this pandemic, we've never faced anything like this in our lives. I'm like, I've read more than 50 books on pandemics, and this is nothing new. This is absolutely in January of 2020. If you go back and look at my live streams and you look at the things I was publishing, I am far more accurate than Fauci was, far more. And it's all online. And it's because pandemic, famine, and war, triangle of death, they always go together. If you get a big war or a big pandemic or a big famine, you will get the other two. And with this will come human migration, right? So, I mean, these things go together. If you're going to study war, you must study pandemic and you must study famine. And so when this pandemic, back in 2019, during my live streams in Hong Kong, they're throwing Molotovs all around me and everything else, tear gas. You can hear me talking, through my mask. I'm talking about avian flu, because I watch pandemics, and I have for years. And so in 2020, in January, on January 11th, I put a mask on because I was like, I don't know what this thing is going to do. Now I think it's a waste of time. I do have it. But I mean, you have to have it.
Yeah, of course.
But the point is if none of these things are new. The human reactions to the pandemics, if you read even 5 books on pandemics, especially if you read 10 or 15 or 20 books, you're going to start to say, wait a minute, a lot of the things that are happening now are highly predictable. This is like Hero with 1,000 Faces. I call it Pandemic with 1,000 Faces. Instead of Joseph Campbell, you know who Joseph Campbell is?
That's
anthropologist. Right. I read Hero with 1,000. I read all of his books. I read Hero with 1,000 Faces 3 times, actually. And this is like Pandemic with 1,000 Faces. The reason that Joseph Campbell.
This is the reason why, Michael, that so many people it's so complicated and people don't always see all of the details that you and I might see because we're inundated with it. We live in this world. They're just trying, I always say, when I was in Afghanistan, I think oh, doesn't everybody know this? And they'll be like, no, I had no idea. And it's because every day, life, it's like I'm a mom, I'm going to school, I got to get my kid to soccer practice. And then before you know it, you're wearing a mask on your face and there's some kind of pandemic you're hearing about and you don't even understand it. And all of a sudden the schools are shut down. And I want people to understand that that's and before I let you go, because I got to wrap up right now, but I want people to understand this is the reality of war. This is what happens in all these countries before it changes, before it turns. It moves so quickly that you wake up one morning. It's kind of like what happened with the pandemic. You wake up and all of a sudden it's on you. And you're just like, wait a minute, how did this happen? I was just normally walking around, in Safeway last week. And now this week I can't go in unless I wear a face mask. And I've, now all of a sudden I'm getting my vaccine. So what I think maybe to wrap it up, to give you the last word, if you could just explain to people like what it is as you prepare for your own work, what it is we need to do to prepare ourselves, like for what could potentially happen. I mean, like what is this? What are we facing? Even though you tell me it's not all new, I feel like something new is happening here because of technology or because of where we are in the human race right now, because things are so far drastically different than they were before. We're so much more global now than we've ever been.
Certainly, I mean, the technology, for instance, speeds up. I mean, we are the scouts, right? One of the things, like the pandemic did not catch me by surprise at all. And if everybody was paying attention to my work in January of 2020 and who has paid attention to my work for years, stocked up on food. I said, stock up on food right now. At a minimum, prices are going up. I mean, so my job is to be a scout. That's my function in life, is to come to places like this and tell you what's going on. That's why you went to Afghanistan, and that's why you were in Tijuana and other border places. We are the scouts, right? What's coming next? Nobody knows specifically, of course. Nobody knows. I can certainly see a hurricane formed. Which way is the hurricane going to go? I can't tell you. But I can see the conditions. I can see the conditions are set for conflict in the United States. And since summer, fall last year, I said, and I'll stand by this. I think that I've published this numerous times. The danger zone for the United States in 2020 or 2021 is starting about April, right about now, because the weather changes. It's literally a lot of this hinges literally on the weather and literally on the moon, for instance. Like right now, we're getting near a full moon. So if you go down to the border, when I was just down on the Texas border recently, and I'm out with Customs and Border Patrol, I'm like, how much does the moon affect?
You'll see more people, that's for sure. There'll be a lot more.
Absolutely. Just like, it's like Comanche Moon, right? I mean, Comanche Moon's a great book, by the way. But I would always watch the moon in Afghanistan, and it's look at my dispatch online. When the moon sets, watch out. When the moon sets, watch out. Read that dispatch. That was 2009 or 10, and it's all about moon stuff. When they just invaded one of our bases down there in Helmand Province and knocked out some of our Harrier jets and killed the commander. Did a suicide attack on a base. It's all about moon stuff. I mean, it's just like the Comanches. That's why they call it a Comanche moon. So what to be prepared for in the United States? I would continue to prepare for serious conflict. How will it look? I don't know. But I can definitely see the conditions being set for serious conflict. I can imagine shortages of items. Will this be 2022, 2021? I don't know, but I can clearly see the conditions becoming set. If you ask me in 2006 about Afghanistan, when's all this going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. But what I could see in 2006 was the conditions were set for us to do badly. Likewise, in Iraq in 2007, the conditions were getting better for us, right? And right now in the United States, conditions are getting worse. One of the things, cut down on this border. This is an epic. Europe has already committed. I lived for 6 years in Europe, right? I speak German fluently, right? And they have committed suicide with their immigration policy. It's just the torpedo is launched. It's coming. It's coming away in the water right now.
Wow, Michael, I hope we find our way out of it. I hope we can divert that torpedo. I hope we find a way to make things better before it gets even worse. I hate to say I hope you're wrong, but you're usually always right every time. I mean, for somebody who has been an avid reader and follower of yours, you've just been incredibly accurate. And it's no wonder that generals and intelligence officials and people that are well versed in the very secret world that you and I sometimes travel through, go to you and go to your work, because you're the first one on the scene usually before it becomes public. So thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show.
Sarah.
Bye-bye. I know that was really, really heavy, but my job is to bring you the truth and bring you all of these incredible guests that you probably wouldn't hear anywhere else, except maybe, Joe Rogan might think he has the most incredible guests. I'm still going to try to get Elon Musk on this show. I really, really, really want to talk to Elon Musk. I don't know why. I'm a big fan of space, and anybody who's willing to take us to Mars is somebody that I admire. Oh, by the way, I don't think I even told you all this, but I was about 30 minutes outside of Space City. I didn't even get a chance to go in Texas. I am definitely going to make that trip, though. I got to tell you. So for all of you who don't know this, I'm going to try to end this on a high note, because I think we all are afraid right now after talking to Michael Yon and you hearing the interview that we could be in a civil war. That is a little frightening to me. I, on the other hand, am going to choose to look at the glass half full option that Michael warned us, and that we are going to get through this, and that we are going to be okay. That we might have some bumps in the road, right? We might have some bumps in the road, but we are going to be okay. We are not going to fall prey to, to this horror. At least I hope not. I really believe in our nation. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Space City, because I'm definitely going to do that. Go there and report on it. No, so Elon Musk is looking to take us, beyond the stars, and he's going to start with this small town in South Texas. And according to the Houston Chronicle, Musk Space Exploration Technologies Corporation is building his deep space rocket in Boca Chica. It's a town along the Gulf Coast of Texas, and it's near the Mexican border. See? Exciting things happen at the Mexican border. It's not just, me reporting on drug cartels. We're actually building a rocket to go to space. So exciting. So exciting. I just wish we could put some of the cartel leaders on that rocket and then shoot them off into space. What do you guys think? I think that's an awesome idea. I come up with these great outside of the box ideas. Then I think we should make them the test dummies, right? They live on the edge. They live on the edge of danger. I say, after all the trauma and hurt that they've caused the world, they should do a little bit of good. Just put them on the rocket. Send them out into space. All's fine. If they survive Mars, boom, there you go. Right? We don't need, and then I can go after that. No, just kidding. Nobody wants Chapo Guzman on a rocket, right? Nobody. Well, maybe I do, but as long as it just keeps going, it doesn't land on Mars. We don't need them to set up camp there. Who knows what would happen? They'd probably start running some kind of alien operation over there, shipping things to the United States that are unheard of, things that would harm us. Anyways, like I said, this is the Sara Carter Show. I always want to end on a good note. I want us to think positive. I know Michael Yon had a lot to say. It's a lot to take in, but it's important. And it's important that we realize what's happening in our own country, right? We spend a lot of time not really paying attention to the things around us. Hopefully, he kind of centers us, brings us back, makes us look at things a little bit different. And remember, just spend time with your children, with your family. Don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors. Don't let these lawmakers in Washington, D.C. divide you. This is a great nation. Don't lose faith in it. Don't lose hope. Remember, it's because of us that we have kept this nation strong, and it'll be because of us that we'll keep our nation going and protecting it for future generations to come. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. Go to saracarter.com where you can get all of the links to all of my social media. Also, remember, sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is vitally important. You do not want to miss that out. Because we are shadow banned on Twitter, we're also shadow banned on Times and Facebook. When we have the newsletter, we can get the information directly to you. It's exciting. It's there for you. It's there for me and you to communicate to one another. And you can always write me at my, you go to my email address, saracarterofficial@gmail.com. Send me whatever ideas you have for shows. I'd be more than happy to take them and listen to them. And right here at the Sara Carter Show, we are not afraid of telling you the stories as they are, as it is. Here, we are taking the story back. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Weber, the CEO of the Association for Mature American Citizens. It's also known as AMAC. The most important question, I think, for so many people out there is, how much does AMAC membership cost? What does it cost the regular consumer?
Yeah, so for $16 a year, okay, or less, you can join at a 1, 3, or 5-year membership. You get a couple of things. You get the benefits. You get a great subscription to a magazine. So for $16, you're going to receive a bi-monthly magazine. But your voice is now going to be heard in Washington. We take our marching orders from you. If you stand for faith, family, freedom, if you believe in the Constitution, if you believe in the greatness of America, if you believe in individual freedoms and everything you just said, Sarah, $16 is not a lot of money to join the 2.3 million members that are really fighting hard to ensure that America remains the best country in the world.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm honored to have you and AMAC as a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. You know, for more information, folks, visit amac.us/Carter.